In this video, we'll discuss the features on Luigi Mangione's face that point to the potential for volatility and anger, as well as the likelihood of ego dominance. Enjoy. Welcome back, everyone. Happy to have you here for another face reading. Today, I'm going to be reading Luigi Mangione. Now, anytime I read a person who is trending, invariably, I'm going to be getting some new viewers. So if you are new to face reading, you're totally green to the topic, you know nothing about it, please go up here and watch the 5-minute crash course face reading video that I made a few years back. That's going to orient you to what this is and what it isn't. It'll give you terms and terminology. And moreover, people come to face reading, and if they've never heard about it or never seen a face reading, they usually lump this in with psychic fortune telling and palm reading and me being psychic and predictive. That's not what this is. That's not what I claim to do here at all. The better way to think about face reading is that the features we carry are symbols for potential expression. And if you bifurcate expression into positive and negative, what they call yin and yang, there's going to be kind of a good side and a bad side of how those emotional and lifestyle themes can show up in your life. And that's more of what this is about. So I'm not here to be psychic and predictive, because people will watch these videos and be like, well, of course you knew that about him. It's all over the internet. I'm not trying to find unknown things about him. That's not what this is. What I'm trying to do with face reading videos is lay out, from an educational perspective, the theory of what face reading says. And then, because I can look at a person's life terrain, because they are online, because they are trending, because they're doing these things, I'm attempting to find congruency between theory and what I'm seeing in the person's life, and hopefully educate you about how you can live your life a bit better in relation to what you're learning. So, all of that being said, let's talk about his features. When he came into the news and he was trending and whatnot, the first thing I noticed were his eyebrows. Secondary to that, I noticed his jawline. So in face reading and in Chinese medicine, they have something called the 5 elements: fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. These are seen as 5 phases or rhythms in the external world that humanity has been dependent upon since the beginning for survival. And because the East believes that humanity is an intermediary between the forces of heaven and earth, we are an extension of the natural world. They believe that reality is holographic, fractal, and repetitive. And so, as above, so below. Elements in the external world, we're going to carry these elements as well. We're a part of the universe. We're a part of the world. So, that being said, the wood element relates to the jawline and the eyebrows. So, the other way to think about this and to frame the wood element is, you can think of the jawline as the root system of a tree. Okay, it's what's underground, it's what's unseen, it's the internal mechanism. The eyebrows relate to the foliage or the greenery of a tree and how that is outwardly expressed into the world. So you can sort of think of like the quantity of the wood energy is in the jaw, and the quality of the outward expression is in the eyebrows. So in terms of emotional themes that relate to the wood element, the negative side is anger, hostility, frustration, irritability, tenacity, and vigor. Those things are sort of like the hard edges of the wood element. Technically the negative side, the things you got to be careful of. The positive side is that these eyebrows, that outward big wood energy, can also be kindness, compassion, and empathy. The other point to think about this in terms of face reading is yin-yang theory. So the yin-yang symbol has a white side and a black side. And in the white side, there's a little black speck. And in the black side, there's a little white speck, right? There's an oppositional speck in each one. Those specks are symbols for potential transformation into the other. So the themes I would be talking to him about are kindness and compassion and empathy. If you overuse those, you lean too much into those, too much of the nice guy energy, it can actually turn into anger, hostility, and outward aggression, especially with those eyebrows. There's a potential for like outward expression of that. So he's got these things. These are things that I would be, saying, pay attention to. You got to be careful with these. And given what I know about his life, it looks like that frustration and anger with the healthcare system and the injustices that he felt he was seeing, he took it out on this guy in the form of murder, which I completely disagree with. I don't think that's the way we should be navigating life as humans. That being said, there's some congruency here in terms of what I'm seeing in his facial features and what's happening in his life. Now, the next thing I noticed about his face was from profile. In face reading, they talk about the face being a symbolic and topographical roadmap of your life. It's sort of like landforms. So the nose is seen as the largest mountain on the face. It's the largest metal. It's a metal element feature, but most people's noses protrude out some. And his, from profile, protrudes out in its dominance. So the jaw slightly recedes in relation to the nose, and his forehead actually slants back, which means from profile, that nose and that energy is coming out of the face more so, right? His forehead isn't frontal and flat. It actually leans back, which kind of points everything towards that nose. When that happens in face reading, what they say is the nose relates to healthy ego expression. So this is a theme because the ego can run amok, right? If we let the ego run things, this is not favorable. And so things that he would have to be careful of is getting too wrapped up in his identity and his ego. And then what they say is if you have a nose like this, up till 40, you've got to really work on healthy expression of ego. And then after the age of 40, learn how to dissolve that ego and let go of it. And is this true for every person to a degree? Yeah. But features, when they're dominant, they're saying this theme is going to be a bit more dominant in your life. So pay attention to it. Now, the last component I'll talk about here is the shaping of his face, what they call the framing. His face runs like an inverted triangle a little bit, more energy at the top that narrows down at the bottom. So in face reading, what they say is that this can be sort of like misfortune happening throughout the life force because it relates to the age brackets, and I'll explain that. So if we think about the face, they associate the upper portion of the face with youth and the bottom of the face with old age. So the 20s kind of go through the forehead, the eyes are through the 30s, the 40s is through the nose, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s through the jaw and the chin, and up to 100, right? So younger at the top, older at the bottom. When the face tapers like this, what they're saying is that as a person ages, there can be a depletion. It's almost like the less material form that goes down into the old age brackets means that life force can... It's kind of an unlucky trait. And it doesn't mean that, if you have this, you're unlucky for your whole life, but it means that like life force can deplete, especially as you age. It looks like he's going to be in a position, he may be going to prison for a very long time, maybe for the rest of his life, who knows. But this is a facial shape that face reading pays attention to because it means as you get older, things cannot be great. Like your trajectory for old age could have some very real complications. So James Dean had this face, big at the bottom, narrow at the bottom, died young. Nikola Tesla, a genius, big at the top, and especially in old age, his face tapered down. He died broke, screwed over by many people, alone in a hotel room, I think in New York. So again, these are just sort of the congruency in terms of what I'm seeing, how his life force is expressing. So if you've got questions, comments, good and bad, feel free to put them down below. And as always, thanks for your time.